Hello everyone and welcome to round 12 here in Germany. We're now into the second half of the season 12 championship. My name is Shane and joining me back in the commentary box once again is Dan.
Thank you, Shane, and after one of the weirdest Grand Prix this season last time out, we arrive at Hockenheim for the German Grand Prix. This track wasn't on the calendar last season, but I'm sure that won't be a problem for the drivers, as Alex seeks to close down the 17-point gap to Tank in the race for the driver's title. This track provides some great overtaking opportunities, so it should provide a thrilling race, but first, it's time for the qualifying report.
So welcome to the qualifying comparison for the German Grand Prix, jumping on board with the Force India of GR Demon on the right and the Mercedes of Bimu on the left. The major difference between these two in this qualifying session, Bimu on the left you can see is on the super soft tyres, whereas GR Demon is on the harder compound of the soft. So coming through this first sector, both drivers negotiated the tricky turn one pretty well, neither getting on the curb on the entry too much or on the exit, which tends to unsettle the car, and due to the tyre advantage, Bimu is significantly ahead coming out of the first sector. But coming into the hairpin then, a very tricky braking zone, picking out the braking at about 125 metres, both of them using first gear to get as much turning as possible, and both taking pretty tight lines actually, not maximising their exit, but coming through this flat right hand now, just trying to put the car in as good a position as possible for this 90-degree left, braking just after the 100-metre board, down to third gear, clipping the curb on the entry, and then trying to open up this right-hander as much as possible, almost flat, more so for Bimu, because of that extra grip on the super soft tyres, and he is marginally ahead heading into this final sector. GR Demon struggling with understeer a little bit through that corner, and again through this hairpin, missing the apex slightly, and Bimu is starting to streak away. As we are beginning to come around the final few corners now, again GR Demon is struggling with that understeer on the soft compound of tyre, and Bimu around the final corner comes up to the line to take pole position for the German Grand Prix with GR Demon down in 12th.
So as we saw in the qualifying comparison there, it was Bimu who took his first pole position of the season with a lap time of a 1:14.5. He was on the super soft tyre, but nevertheless it was a great achievement for the Mercedes driver. Alex, 17 points behind in the championship, made a great start to his Germany weekend by taking P2 on the grid, less than 2/10 off Bimu's time. Aresi was third with the championship leader Tank down in 4th. Enford was 5th with Big Shot completing the 3rd row. Ali Kate was 7th with Kian once again having a reasonably good qualifying session in 8th. MBA Rubin was 9th but on the super soft tyre, so that will put him at a slight disadvantage heading into the race, with Clarkey rounding out the top 10. B Colt back to form in P11 with GR Demon completing the 6th row of the grid. Nummer was 13th with Theo down in 14th. Dan, RBS, Jonas and Jake were the last of the runners to set a time in this qualifying session, with X-Men, Madison, Big C choosing to not set a time. Display was the only absentee from this race, and now it's time for the German Grand Prix.
It's race time here in Germany. It's another overcast day, so the drivers have got to keep an eye on the weather conditions. And just to spice it up even more, we've got Bimu on pole on the super softs.
Yeah, obviously he's on that alternate strategy, and I think he'll be feeling the nerves heading down to turn 1 because he needs to keep that track position for his strategy to work out. But yeah, it is overcast once again like we saw in Hungary, but it'd be interesting to see how the weather works out today if it does start raining. Obviously we saw in Hungary where it took ages for it to become intermediate conditions. Only on the last couple of laps was it truly ready for the green wall tyre. If you compare that though to Silverstone, where it was ready within a couple of laps, the drivers really have to be alert today.
Yeah, so Bimu on the super softs, and we already said the only man in the top 8 to be on that tyre. Everyone else, as you can see on board with Emthorn, is on that yellow walled soft tyre. Then it's NBA Rubin on the super softs, and he is the only other man in the top 10 to start on those tyres. And Alex in second then, currently 17 points behind in the Drivers' Championship, trying to make headway into Tank's lead at the moment. He's starting from a good position to try and do that. He's 2 places ahead of the championship leader, and now on board with Kian going through the hairpin. So when can we expect when can we expect the first pit stops to come about, providing there is no rain very early on in the race?
Well, I think for the Superstars, they'll be looking to take them around 7 or 8 laps, compared that to the soft tyre, that can go around about 12 to 14 laps, which obviously opens up the strategy for you. It's still going to be difficult for a one-stop strategy if you're starting on that soft tyre. Starting on the mediums, then there's a slight opportunity that a one-stop could be possible, but starting on the super softs guarantees that two-stop strategy at the very best. So as they get all formed up for the start of this race, Shane, take us through the start of this German Grand Prix.
They now come in to file up on the pit straight then. Alex and Beamy definitely getting around the formation lap quicker than anyone else. And two cars reset to the grid then. GR Demon and someone else. I can't quite see who else that is, as we've got the final car coming into its grid slot. And Big C and Nat Williams. And on board with Mayhem Madness at the moment. And now we're looking upon the grid, ready for the 5 bright red lights, being held quite a while. And Ali K's left the session, that's why. But now we've got the 5 red lights coming on. Lights out, away we go for the German Grand Prix. Once the lights were on, they were not on for very long, as now Alex is now under threat from Aresi, already going into turn 1, and he's actually lost that place. Aresi up to P2 already. Novotank trying to look around the outside of the pair of them into turn 2, and Alex has been swamped. He's now down to 4th. Novotank around the outside of Aresi going through turn 4, and that is Nervo up to 3rd, Aresi up to 2nd. Bmu already has got up. The riders are now on board with Kian in 7th place, and NBA Ruben is in 8th, and there's a lot of cars going on into the hairpin side by side. Alex is one of those cars alongside 2 cars, Nervo and Aresi into the hairpin. They just about managed to make it work, and Aresi actually lost a lot of ground in that. Nervo's up to P2 and scampering away up into the lead, as now Alex is having to fend off Aresi. There's a lot of lag going on. Kian now around the outside of Big Shot, and there's contact. Mthorn's gone around and taken Aresi with him. And I think that was Mthorn overstepping the mark into the braking zone there. But Bimo is up into the lead, Nervo into 2nd, and Alex maintaining 3rd place.
Yeah, it's hard to tell from what really happened from Kian's POV, because there was definitely a lot of amount of lag. But from what we saw there, it just looked like M4 missed his braking point going into the side of Ferrari. But hopefully we'll see a replay from M4's perspective at some point. But he's down in 20th, and his race heavily compromised, considering he's on the softs with Aresi down to 12th. So really not been a great start for those two. But it's been a great start for Bmu. He's out in this lead of this race, and needs to put in some good laps to make his strategy work.
Yep, so now down into turn 2 then, looking at Big Shot in 4th at the moment. So he's had a good start, obviously gaining the places that when Mthorn and Aresi took themselves out, as Novotank is beginning to hunt down the Mercedes of Bmu. Is already up the inside into the hairpin, actually takes the position. Bmu gives him the space, and Kian up the inside of Big Shot as well through the hairpin. So we're going to see a lot of overtaking during this hairpin today. It's a fantastic overtaking spot, and then we're going to see some cutback moves down into this corner at turn 8. And we've got 2 cars off at the hairpin, Dan the Snake and Jonas. So there's been some kind of collision between the 2 drivers there, and now they're back underway again. So Novotank is up into the lead, followed by Bmu, and then Alex, Big Shot and Kian. And now Novotank is going to do what he tries to do every single race, which is absolutely fly off and take off into the distance.
Yeah, but if Bmu can stick in that slipstream and DRS range, he'll have a very good opportunity on the next lap into the hairpin once again. From 2nd to 3rd, there already appears to be quite a big gap, so that's ideal for Nervo, because Bmu will have to make an earlier pit stop, so probably not in contention for the race win today as we fly through turn 1. Very easy to pick up corner cutting warnings, or actually extension warnings, on the exit of turn 1. And now on board with Bmu, I don't think he'll get the DRS now, but oh yes he does. And now as we head towards the hairpin, I wonder if he'll try and go up the inside into the hairpin. Indeed he does, he goes for it, very ambitious on the grace, a lovely move, gets it stopped, and a very nice move from the Mercedes driver there.
Yeah, blocks off Nervo on the apex as well to stop him getting any kind of switchback move. And meanwhile, these two have absolutely taken off up the road from Alex and P3. Nervo back up the inside into turn 8 and takes back the lead then. So great battle between these two at the moment, obviously on different compounds. So Beamy is going to have the better grip for the first 5 laps, and then it will start to come back into Nervo's favour. But yeah, Alex is definitely holding up a whole group of cars, which is allowing these two up at the front to drive away at the moment. So this is working out for the top two at the moment, and there is Alex holding up the likes of Big Shot and Kian, and then the two McLarens separated by NBA Rubin as well in 7th place. You can see him coming through the last corner. So through turn 1 they go. First DRS point down this straight, which basically just enables you to get close to the car in front, and then there's another detection point on the exit of this corner as Kian is up the inside of Big Shot and takes that move very well up the inside, and he won't be hurt too much by that, as he's going to pick up the DRS off the back of Alex as well. So now into the hairpin we go. Beamy not quite close enough for a move this time, has now got a virtual safety car.
Yeah, so something has clearly happened to warrant this thing to come out, so it just effectively neutralises the race as we're on board with Aresi from the start. So his 5 red lights go out, Ali K's joined, obviously he led, so don't really know what's happened there, but yeah, Aresi got a very good start on the outside of Alex into turn 1, goes wide, but we'll be able to hang on to that and get into P2, then feels the need to defend the inside line because he's got a whole host of cars trying to go past him. There's Nervo Tank going around the outside of Alex and into the hairpin. He's an absolute sandwich. He's got Alex up the inside, Nervo around the outside, sort of backs out slightly and thankfully avoids any major contact. But then I suppose as we go on the run into the hairpin, Alex is lagging for a rest. That's not what you want to see. And then I presume M4 just dives up the inside. Yes, he does. And then it's the effect of crashing into the back of Alex that actually spins Aresi round. As you can see just on then, M4, he locks up slightly, goes straight into the back, well not into the back, into the side pod of Aresi and gets front wing damage just to compound his misery.
Yeah, I think that's M Thorne's going to have to take the blame on that one. That was all his own fault, came from far too far back, and now this is on lap 2. Jonas really outbreaking himself as well and swiping the front end of Dan's car, and well, that's Dan's race compromise, that's for sure. And now this is on board with Ali K. We can see that move that Kian pulled off on the last lap, and beautiful move from Kian as there's contact there between Big Shot and Ali K, and that's how he's retired then, and that's how we've got this virtual safety car as well. So Ali K with 3 wheels on his car, losing the right rear tyre, and he is out of the race sadly after lagging out and disconnecting on the formation lap, but thankfully he was able to rejoin, but not for much longer. So now we're back looking at Big Shot right on the back of Kian, and now coming through turn 4 onto the back straight, down this kink, we should say, down this back straight, and counts as a corner officially, which is rather bizarre, as now Kian up the inside of Big Shot, defending against the Ferrari, but the Ferrari's got the better grip around the outside, out tractions the Renault, and Big Shot retakes the place.
Yes, the Ferrari driver up into P4 and looking quite strong here in Germany, so he'll be on for a good result. Alex has formed a bit of a gap, and we're hoping to hunt down Beamu as his super soft tyre will probably have started to lose their edge now, and the soft tyre will become the better race tyre at this point as we head into the stadium section. Probably no way through around here as we head into the stacks curve, but yeah, oh god, Kian has tapped the back of the Ferrari driver and is in the gravel. What on earth happened there? He just seemed to just go into the back of the Ferrari driver. Complete mistake by the Renault driver, it appears. And, well, that's his race ruined pretty much, because surely they'll have to make a pit stop. No, he carries on, but he has got substantial front wing damage.
Yeah, I think he's either tapped the back of Big Shot, as he said, and then or dropped it, put his right rear wheel onto the grass going into the Sachs curve, and quite a dramatic spin, but thankfully gets away with it, as now M Thorne is up the inside of Mayhem Madness on those soft tyres, much more grip to the guys around him at the moment, and now he can hunt down that Renault of Kian as he recovers from that spin. And NBA Rubin, obviously the only guy to start on the Super Softs apart from Beamu, doing a terrific job in 5th place at the moment. So he's having a quiet race so far in his first 5.5 laps, but he's got the McLaren of Clarkey right behind him. But they're pulling out a gap over the cars behind, so this is not working out too bad for the Sauber driver.
Yeah, he's obviously probably racing the guys who are roughly who the guys who started on mediums, because they're battling so much at the start of this race, it's costing them a lot of time. So yeah, it is kind of working out for BME and NBA Ruben, who've gone for that almost alternate strategy by choosing the softest tyre. Very wicked to say, obviously the tyre wear glitch that we have in this game, it's obviously caused this, which has thankfully been fixed, which will come into effect for every race after Singapore. But back for this battle with the P5, and Clarkey on that soft tyre will surely have an advantage now as he gets the DRS going down into turn 2. He'll stay behind here, and then surely with the DRS down the back straight, this will be an easy move from the McLaren driver.
Yeah, through turn 4 we go then. Now down the back straight, looking into Alex, who's trying to have a look up the inside of Beamy. Beamy gives him the space and goes for an Alonso-style cutback on the exit, and is now going to try to out-drag the Red Bull into the Mercedes-Benz grandstand corner. And Alex has got the inside line though for turn 8 and gets that position, is now up into second place. But Beamy once again coming for a cutback, but he has to stick in behind for now. So that's Alex up to P2, and now he's going to have to try and hunt down his championship rival in Noah Tank, who's already got a 4-second lead by the looks of it on the mini-map. And no, it's a 5-second lead actually, looking at the top left, seeing the timing screen up there. But now coming through the last corner, Alex in P2 then, and Beam is actually pitted, we can see at the top of the screen, and now on board with him going into the pits, going down to that 50-mile-an-hour speed limit. And what tyres is he going to go on to then? It's another set of super softs.
That is a very interesting strategy call from the Mercedes driver then. So clearly they've had some information about the rain, because if this was a normal dry race, then that is a very odd decision to go onto the softest compound once again, because he knows he can only take that another 8 or 9 laps or so, as there's some action for P14 as one of the Saubers has run wide, and I think that's RBOS and Dan both up a position. Not really sure what happened there, but I think they just ran wide on the exit of turn 1. But I don't know where BMU's come out in all of this, but I think he's around the front of this train. I think that's him there, just in the Mercedes, who's around about P12, but he'll have much grippier tyres than these guys, so it's not worked out too badly for the Mercedes driver.
Yeah, Desimplay obviously absent from this race, so that is Beaming up in 12th place. So he's only got a couple of cars, like 2 or 3 cars up in front of him. But NBA Rubin has rejoined right at the back of that queue, so that's not worked out at all well for him, as Big Shot runs wide into the grandstand part of the lap, and now into the Sachs curve. Clarkey has that position and is now up to P3 on the soft tyres himself. So that is now Clarkey up to P3 after Big Shot's mistake, and he's now going to try and hunt down Alex himself. And now watching Big Shot not really struggling after that mistake, going into the tight part of the lap in Sector 3. Rossi doing well at the moment after that being hit on the first lap, up in 5th place, almost catching up to the back of his teammate. So he's got some good pace in that Ferrari, and now on board with the race winner last time out in Hungary. Not had a good start to this race, as it is definitely chucking it down now.
Yeah, it's changed very quickly, and we've got Jake and RBOS both losing the rear end through turn 3, and there's a Red Bull. That's Alex. He's gone far too deep to the hairpin. These guys have got no grip. The track conditions have changed very quickly, and some of them have been caught out as Enthorn goes straight on off at the hairpin. It's all kicking off here on lap 9.
Yeah, I think these guys have come to a part of the track where the rain is very heavy indeed. You can see how much they're struggling for traction. DRS is disabled, so it's got very wet here in Germany very, very quickly. And Clarkey is now in 2nd place after Alex going off at the hairpin, of course. So Alex has lost out hugely in this situation. So these guys are surely going to have to come in for intermediates, as we saw how much everyone was struggling. So it's the complete opposite of what we had last time out in Hungary, where it took forever for the track to be ready for inters. And here in Germany, it's ready basically straight away.
Yeah, as Clarkey will have to slow down for that 50-metre speed limit, as some of them could slow down for the hairpin, so I presume that will be a task for about half of the drivers, as Alex, who's lost a lot of track position. Theo has had a great first stint on that medium tyre, getting from P14 up to P6, as GR Demon is not phased by these conditions, and he's trying to find a way past the Haas of M4. No way through though, and has to settle in P10, as they all just slammed the to the pit lane, and this is really going to cost the drivers who have got a teammate, because if their teammate comes in first, then due to the way the pit mechanics sort of work on this game, even if your teammate has come in around about 30 seconds before you, you're still going to get held up, so this could cost some drivers a lot of time.
Yeah, so a big shot, for example, he's got a Williams that's just spawned inside him, going through the pit lane exit. They're going to be side by side now, and now they've contact, and they've both gone over the white line. And I'm a bit surprised Big Shot's not yielded on that one, because that was always going to happen with the contact model that we've got on this game. So they've both escaped it without any worries, though, so I don't think there'll be any penalties for going over the white line after that contact. And now you can see how much this has affected NBA Rubin and all of this. He's down in 17th after being in 5th at the start of this race, having to do the extra pit stop. And the rain falling on lap 9 has not helped him at all. And you can see how wet the track has gone in effectively one and a half laps. That's how bad the conditions have gotten, as NBA Rubin puts manners on his teammate and completely outbreaks him into the hairpin. And now Jonas has actually come back at him on the exit, and they've made contact. And you never really want to see teammates making contact. That's the worst situation you can have as a team. And now the pair of them are stone dead last.
Yeah, they've not really had great results for both of them since obviously that great podium for Jonas back in Spain. So the last thing they want to do is taking each other out. But no, Tank, seemingly unfazed by everything that's happened so far in this race, has got a commanding lead. It's over 10 seconds to Clarkey now, and he's well on his way to claiming another victory this season.
Yeah, obviously there's still a long way to go, nowhere near half distance just yet, and now on board with GR Demon going over the line, and yeah, the front end guys are well and truly up the road. They're very split apart at the moment, but yeah, it's quite spectacular how the conditions have worsened since about lap 8, lap 9, as the rain began to fall. But now here we go then. The DRS obviously disabled in these conditions because it is too wet for the drag to be lifted up at the top of the car. But GR Demon has actually got a good run on Nummer, and he's going to have a look up the inside down into the hairpin. Is he later enough on the brakes? Yes, he is, alongside into the apex of the corner. They give each other just about enough space. Nummer's going to get the better traction on the exit, and he's going to maintain that position, but they're going to go side by side through turn 9, and GR Demon just backs out of it through there. Careful not to have a very quick accident. And now coming into the last half of the lap, going into the last sector of the lap, and GR Demon has to follow in for now. And now this is a replay of Clarkey going for a move on Alex. This is where it began to rain heavy as anything you want, really, and Alex just sailing off the track at the hairpin, had no grip on the brakes at all. And yeah, his Clarkey's engineer getting on the radio straight away saying, come on, you know, pit for inters straight away. These conditions are way too bad for the slick tyre. And now we're on board with GR Demon coming into the last sector of the lap. Nummer goes well wide into the gravel trap. Emthorn almost follows him. And now coming into the Sachs curve, what's going to happen here? Emthorn runs slightly wide. I think this is where we picked up when GR Demon and Thorn were going side by side through the last couple of corners of the lap. And yeah, as we saw earlier on, GR Demon had to back out of it on that occasion.
Yep, and on board with the Force India driving currently in P11, and he's got a Red Bull right behind him. I presume that's X-Mare Madness, as he tries to go to the outside, down the back straight. Will be side by side into the hairpin. I wonder who'll be able to brake later here, as they seem to brake pretty equal actually. But GR Demon will have that inside line, as there's a Ferrari round of Big Shot. I don't know what's happened to him, but he's lost a hell load of positions. He's down to P12 now. So yeah, don't really know what's happened to the Ferrari driver. A lot of incidents happening into the hairpin today, but X-Men Manus will have to settle down in P11, but seemingly got good pace in these intermediate conditions. Yeah,
so it's kind of a whole new ball game that these guys have to play with in these kind of conditions, as we're now looking at B-Colt, who has got RBOS right behind him in the Haas, going into the very fast right-hander coming into the stadium section, which is very, very tight, as you can see, coming through the Sachs curve now. And the traction in these conditions, especially over that chicane, will be very, very tricky. It's hard enough in the dry conditions, so you put a bit of water on it, it will become very, very difficult indeed. Coming through the last corner, I think Mayhem Madness was in a good position there into turn 1. I don't think he's quite close enough to make a move. No, he isn't. Backs out of it for now. Sorry, that's Jake on Dan, so my apologies, the wrong cars on there. And RBS now having a look up the inside, actually goes down the inside of B-Colt in a manner, and B-Colt backing out of it on that occasion. And now we've got M-Thorn coming around the outside of Beemu into the hairpin, and Beemu later on the brakes misses the apex, overshoots the corner, and M-Thorn's going to do a lovely switch back and is up into 7th.
Yeah, Big C has somehow emerged out of this whole transition in P6. Really don't know how that one happened, but nevertheless the Williams driver is looking on course to score some big points for Williams today, and numbers also in P9, so looking quite good for them at this point in the race. But we're less than half distance as B-Colt loses the rear end there, just showing how much difficult it is in these intermediate conditions compared to the dry, because normally you don't even think about that corner as Clarkey is coming under some pressure from, I think that is Aresi in the Ferrari, as they go through turn 1. Obviously no DRS now into turn 2. But nevertheless, he'll still get a good slipstream effect in towards the hairpin and could get up to P2 and pass the McLaren here.
Aresi setting his sights on a runner-up this race. He's already got his out-traction Clarkey through turn 4 and has already got the move done. So he's got the move done well before the hairpin. So he's going to have to cover the inside slightly to make sure Clarkey doesn't come back on the brakes. And now that is the Ferrari recovering up to 2nd place after that, after being hit on the first lap. So Aresi's doing a fine job indeed, but I think Nervo's kind of at this stage in the race looking very good for the win. Theo also doing a superb job in 5th place, started in 14th and is currently in 5th and in a world of his own at the moment.
Yeah, he is looking very good, is the Mayan driver at this point, as Big C is holding up the Hash driver of M-Thorn as we head into the final sector once again. And is that Beemu just behind as well? Yeah, obviously the guy who started on pole has clearly got some good pace around this track, as M-Thorn has a look up the inside of there. I don't think he'll get past into that corner as Big C holds on to P6 for the time being. But yeah, these intermediate conditions have had a few laps to get used to them now, so really starting to see who's got the pace at this point, and it appears not to be Big C in that Williams as he loses the rear end around the final corner. This gives M-Thorn a good opportunity into turn 1, but won't make a move there, chooses to stay behind him. Very wise decision from the Hash driver, as he needs to obviously get this move done relatively quickly, because otherwise he could come back under pressure from the Mercedes driver as they all go through turn 2 and then through turn 3, trying to plant that throttle down. And now M-Thorn will have a good opportunity into the hairpin. He's very close, and I think if he gets up the inside of here, that should be him up into P6.
Into the hairpin, M-Thorn already up the inside and late enough on the brakes, doesn't get it stopped just about, and I think he'll get good enough traction on the exit to maintain that place. So Big C down to 7th place, obviously on the off the back of a triple DNF for him at the moment, which is very unfortunate for him, but he's running strong in the points at the moment in 7th, and well, he's got the Mercedes of Beemu going up the inside of him now already, so I don't think he'll quite make that one stick, and Beemu has to tuck in behind for now, going down into the Sachs curve, and B-Colt has unfortunately retired from the session, so it's another DNF for the Manor, and the guy just can't get any luck at the moment, which is obviously horrendous to see for him, and because we want to see everyone in the race battling for whatever position they can, and because that's what we're here for at the end of the day. Great racing. And now Big C coming into turn 1, still being followed by that Mercedes of Beemu. He's actually run wide through turn 1, and Beemu's up the inside heading in towards turn 2, and who's going to be later on the brakes? It is the Mercedes, so Big C is now down to 8th, but he's going to get a good run through turn 3 and 4. Now he's going to get it a good run through turn 5 down this back straight, and he's going to go to the outside as Beemu almost sticks him on the grass, and now into the hairpin we go. Big C backs out of it on the brakes, and Beemu just about manages to get it stopped this time, and that is now the Mercedes up into 7th.
Yeah, and he'll be trying to hunt down M4 again, but M4's already got quite a big gap to those two. So he's looking to cement P6 and probably trying to catch up to the manner of Theo. But back to Nervotank out in front, and he has a massive gap at this point in the race. I wasn't able to read what sort of gap he had, but it was pretty huge, as the top four are all pretty spread out. Actually, the top five as well, as M4 is a fair way behind with BMU in 7th and Big C, as we've just seen, being relegated to P8, number in P9, a fair way ahead of GR Demon, as he's now back under pressure from Big Shot. And he'll be looking to get past soon, because obviously he got wiped out earlier on through some sort of incident which we haven't seen, as we go through this final section. I think GR Demon's actually got a bit of wing damage, as you can see on his front right end plate, so that is really hurting. You can see the understeer he's getting through that corner, so that's probably compromising his pace in the wet conditions, as we've seen that Alex has actually made a pit stop. I wonder what that is for.
Yeah, I was just about to say, the rain actually has eased off, so I think we might get back to slicks very soon. And at the moment, Big Shot is having a look up the inside into turn 2, no, backs out of it. But yeah, I wonder if Alex has gone on to dries, which will be a very surprising move if he has done, because this still doesn't look dry track to me for those tyres. And everyone else still running around on the intermediates at the moment. So yeah, the rain does look like it has stopped, and so we've got some very bizarre weather here in Germany. I think that is Alex. He's on the medium tyres. He's now losing out to GR Demon and Big Shot, and he is now down to 11th place. So yeah, it doesn't seem like it's working for the Red Bull at the moment, and these inters are doing fine at the moment, but that's going to cost Alex a whole bunch of time.
Yeah, he risked it in Hungary. It kind of worked out okay for him, but he actually lost P2 in that race, as Clarky pits with no front wing. What on earth has happened here? From what we saw a few moments ago, he's in a complete world of his own, and somehow he's now got no front wing. He's trying to make a pit stop. Wonder what tyre he's gone onto. We must be relatively close to this crossover window, and I think he is also going to risk it on the dry compound tyre. So that is absolutely massive for his race. As we've seen with Alex, it's clearly not ready for the dry tyre, and now he's chosen to go onto the soft tyre.
Yeah, I think everyone's swamping him down into turn 1 now. He's been mugged by his teammate, and Dan as well, as Mayhem Madness takes an interesting route through turn 1. I think he got hit by Dan there. So I think that penalty will be removed later on from the stewards, as Alex is now down to 14th place, as this is now RBOS going around the outside of Dan through turn 4, and he's made the move stick. So yeah, Alex now dropping down like a stone. I don't think Clarky had any other option but to go onto the dry tyres, because otherwise if he pitted for inters, then he would have lost, I think, even more time. But now this is not what he needed for his race. He was doing so well up in 2nd place, and now you can see how the Inters runners have just waltzed up the road since they've passed him, and it's going to be the traction zones where these guys lose out the most, as Alex looks like he's got more grip, surprisingly, on a harder compound. So obviously Alex has got a lot longer, a lot more knowledge on those tyres, and now Aresi's pitted as well. He's gone on to the medium, so I think Alex and Aresi are going to try to get to the end from where they are, but Theo has chose to stuck with the intermediates at a moment, as now Mthorn is going on to the super soft. So lots of different strategies going on here, Dan.
Yeah, and it's going to see whether this works out. We've seen quite a few drivers struggle on the dry compound, but a lot of people do appear to be changing, as Jake has retired from the race, but a few guys still hanging it out on that intermediate tyre, seemingly thinking that that is still the more suited. It's hard to tell from these sort of off-board cams whether it's the best tyre, but Theo does appear to have more grip than the Ferrari driver, as we go on board with Clarky. So this is a replay on lap 17. So what on earth is going to happen here? So he just locks up and then goes straight off, and then and then he just taps the wall very slightly, and his whole front wing falls off.
Yeah, it's just
well, that is just fabulous. So, very unfortunate for him.
Yeah, Jake did the same thing behind him, which is very odd indeed. I think Jake was a lap down by that stage. So, I'm surprised Clarky didn't get his foot off the brake there, because that might have enabled him to actually find some kind of grip. As this is Biko up the inside of Jake, and he's made it work, and then gets tapped by the Toro Rosso. And that's how he ended up, and actually just, I think, Rage retires there, which is sad to see. So that's another retirement to add to B Colt's collection, as we've now got Nova Tank still leading the race. And I think at this stage a lot of people have pitted for the dry compound, and Theo still running in second place on those inters, so clearly he doesn't feel it's ready for the dry tyres, and he is still ahead of Aresi, so it's working out fine at the moment for him. As we now come look at Big C, who is at the hairpin as well, still on the inters for him. And I think a lot of people are coming into the pits now. Mthorn is up to 5th, followed by BMU. So the dries look like they're coming to the drivers, as now RBOS is now up the inside of the red of the Mercedes, and they both go wide at the hairpin, and RBOS actually loses that place on the exit.
Yeah, I think we've got into this sort of territory now where both tyres are sort of not suited to the track conditions, so it's not ideal for either tyre, but I don't think you're going to be losing too much on either compound. It's just whether you're going to get held up maybe in the pit box by your teammate if they're both pit on the same lap, so some drivers might have stayed out for that reason, or just feeling that if they stay out an extra couple of laps then they can get a softer compound to the end of the race. But on board with Alex and Clarky, I think that's GR Demon just ahead of them. So obviously he was miles back earlier on in the race, but because they pitted far too early for the dry compound, that has meant that the Force India driver is now ahead of both of them, as it appears that the remaining drivers who hadn't pitted for the dry tyres now do, as Theo comes out of the pit lane very close to Mthorn. Obviously Mthorn on that Superstars, with Theo on the medium compound tyres, so he'll be easily able to get to the end of the race, whereas the Haas driver will probably have to make one more pit stop.
Theo then still in 3rd place after all of after Alex's and Clark's mistake of going onto the dries too early, and obviously Clarky's mistake of just putting it in the wall, and Thorn is now up the inside and up to 3rd himself, but obviously he's definitely going to have to make another pit stop before the end of this race. On board with now GR Demon in 7th, under threat from Alex, and has to yield that position, but actually gets the cutback on the exit of the hairpin, and out tractions the Red Bull, and he's going to be well in front by the time they get into turn 8, and that is GR Demon back up into 7th place, followed by Alex and Clarky, and Nama rounding out the top 10 at the moment.
Yeah, and the Forcing driver has got into a relatively good position. BMU in P5 looking very strong. Obviously he started on pole, but we're probably very happy with 10 points considering how his season has gone so far. But yeah, Alex is trying to make up for lost time really, because he's made a very poor strategy call. He probably recognises that now, and needs to get some moves done to try and salvage what he can from this race, because his championship rival is currently outscoring him by 21 points considering he's in the lead, and so he needs to make up some positions to make it almost damage limitation so far this race, as we now go through turn 1 once again, and I think DRS is being enabled once again. There's Big Shots not too far behind in the background, so I'm sure he'll catch up to his train considering the pace he showed earlier in this race. As we go through turn 4, and that's turn 3 actually, isn't it, as Alex gets the DRS but doesn't appear to be close enough, but I wonder how much time he'll gain. He's gained lots of time. Look at that slipstream into the hairpin up the inside, and that is the Red Bull driver up into P7. Unless a Force India manages to get a cutback, he gets very good traction on the exit of the hairpin, and Alex looks to be able to maintain P7 for the time being, but the Force India driver isn't giving that one up, looks up the inside, but backs out of that, and that's Alex up into P7.
Yeah, so I think the guys on the mediums and will definitely be able to go to the end. The guys on the softs are kind of touch and go depending on how they look after them, and the guys on the super softs are definitely going to have to make another pit stop before the end of this race, as Clarky goes around the outside of the Force India around the Sachs curve, and I don't think I've ever seen that before, so fair dues to Clarky. Obviously Demon struggling with the front wing damage that he has got at the moment, and is getting quite a train behind him at the moment. Clarky and Alex have been released from that train and now can try and get after the Williams of Big C, who is still running in 6th place at the moment. So he's quietly worked himself into a very good points paying position at the moment, and there is still 11 laps to go at the end of this one, as Clarky is now going to try and hunt down Alex, in the Red Bull. GR Demon's going to be okay at the moment and maintain that 9th place for now, considering he has DRS down this straight in towards the hairpin. Clarkey not quite close enough for a move on the Red Bull just yet.
Yeah, it's just worth pointing out with the sort of tyre lives of these guys. Clarkey obviously pitted early, and because he started on the soft tyre at the start of the race, that means those soft tyres won't go as far as GR Demons, who obviously started on the mediums, which will give him an advantage as we're on board for the battle with P13 as Danny's looking up the inside of turn 1. X-Men Madness runs wide. They manage to go side by side through turn 1, and now Kian's joining the party. He goes to the outside for turn 2, sorry. As they're 3 wide now, and now Kian loses the rear end and then goes into the side pod of X-Men Madness, and Dan seems to have come out of that incident with nothing's happened to him, but Kian has lost a lot of time, and X-Men Madness has lost 2 positions in that.
Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't get a replay of that from Mayhem Madness's point of view, as now his teammate is under threat from the McLaren of Clarkey going down into the hairpin, and it's going very defensive, but in the end it's not going to matter. Clarkey has got such more grip and speed at the moment. Big Shot's gone sliding into the wall there, and now is reversing out of the barrier. He's actually retired from the Grand Prix, so I don't know what happened there. We couldn't quite see it, and now the safety car's been deployed. Well, as if we needed any more action in this race, it's about to get a lot more tastier up at the front.
Yeah, so Nerva Tank's huge advantage that he had is it just stopped on track.
It's just stopped.
Yeah, obviously after the incident that we had in Monaco, he will not be wanting to get any more penalties due to sort of virtual safety cars or even normal safety cars, because the drivers will get a delta for 1 lap as long as they were on the, if they're on the lead lap effectively of where Nerva Tank was. That doesn't make a lot of sense, but basically if you've gone over the start finish line and are on the same lap as the leader, then you'll get a delta. Whereas if you haven't met that sort of requirement, then you will not get a delta, giving you quite a big advantage. It's quite complicated and doesn't make a lot of sense. But nevertheless, we've got a whole host of cars coming into the pit lane, and because Nervo had such an advantage, I think he'll still be able to maintain the lead, and Resi should also hang on to second, but it obviously will wipe out the massive advantage that they both had.
Yeah, Nervo coming still not even anywhere near the pits yet. He's still got to make his way through the Sats curve and then the chicane and then the penultimate corner. So these two obviously are restricted on lap time, whereas everyone else can go flat out to try and catch them up. So I think Nervo with his massive lead will be okay. It will it might hurt where Aresi was relative to the rest of the field, and now the race leader is in the pits. So we've got to imagine that the rest of these guys are going to go on to Supersoft to try and have a quick blast to the end. Here is Thorn. Obviously the first guy who didn't have a delta is pushing very hard to try and get ahead of Aresi, and now coming out of the pits, Nervo is well and truly in the lead. He's miles ahead of Thorn. Here is Aresi, and looking on the mini-map, we can see that Thorn is definitely going to go past, so that is hurt Aresi. He's going to go down into third, but that looks like he's going to lose only 1 position, so it's not worked out too bad for the Ferrari, but obviously it's not ideal for him. He would have been trying to get right behind the runner of Nervo on the restart. But yeah, this has definitely worked out very well for the Haas of Thorn at the moment.
Yeah, and considering that where he was on lap 2, crashing into the side pod of Aresi, he has now a golden opportunity to try and get 2 race wins in a row. Obviously, he's just got that small task of overtaking Nervo Tank. I'm sure that's fine. But you see Alex and Clarkey down in P8 and P9. They've lost an awful amount of time. Nummer P11 with GRD and P12, as Dan is in P13. Jonas P14 and X-Men managed in P15. And we've still got 16 runners actually. Yep, so we've got 16 drivers left in this race. And they'll all be on the lead laps. They've all got an opportunity to score some points in the, well, whenever we get going. Probably presumably be about 7 laps of racing once the safety car comes in.
Yeah, obviously the fuel, the drivers can save a lot of fuel during this safety car period of about 3 to 4 laps. It tends to vary depending on where it is during the race. So now coming into the last sector, we would have known by this point if the safety car was coming in, so they're definitely going to go round again. So it might come in the next lap, or definitely on lap 28. So we'll definitely get about 6-7 laps worth of racing, which will be fantastic to see a sprint finish on the end, with everyone going in mix and on the softest compound available here, which is obviously the red marked striped super soft. So Theo doing a tremendous job at the moment in 4th at the moment. It'll be interesting to see if whether or not he can get his first podium of the season, but he's in a position where I don't think he's been before so far this season, where he's got a lot of fast cars around him.
Yeah, and it's worth pointing out, due to the sort of nature of the safety car, because it's appeared so late in the race, if any drivers have got penalties, this could have a huge impact on the results, because as we saw earlier on in the race, the top 4 or 5 were so spread out that the penalties would have had no effect effectively. So, but because the 3 seconds could be so crucial because they're so close together, we could see a huge impact on the results even after we've crossed the finishing line. But the drivers can't think about that now. They've got, well, I think they'll have 6 laps left of racing, unless we have the safety car coming in this lap, as we see Theo. So he's, as we can see, he's in the final sector, and because Nervo, Tank and Aresi had crossed the start finishing line when the safety car comes, actually no, Aresi wasn't on the same lap as Nervo, but still gets a delta, which has made me even more confused as to how this whole safety car and delta thing works. So he's then nearly hit the safety car. Okay, right, so this has been quite action-packed. I'm now confused as to how the safety car delta thing works, but effectively Nervo and Aresi got a delta, whereas the rest of the drivers didn't. It's made me more confused, but what we do know is that Nervo Tank leads this race and Aresi has dropped down to P3.
Yeah, but let's not forget, considering that both Aresi and Mthorn were facing the wrong way after basically a lap, half a lap of racing, considering that they're now both in a position to win, I think they will gladly take any result, any good, well, providing that they don't drop any positions come the end of the race. I think they'll be very happy with how the rest of the afternoon has gone. But now we are on lap 28 of 34, and we're definitely going to get the safety car coming in this lap. If we don't, then, well, I'll be confused, such as the way Dan is at the moment alongside me here. So now, coming through the last sector of the lap, there is Mthorn, currently 3rd in the championship, 1 point ahead of the driver that is right behind him. So it's a battle, as well as the win, as well as for the win, it's a battle for prize in the championship between those two at the moment in 2nd and 3rd. And now Nervo begins to drop back from the safety car, as the safety car lights have gone out, and we're going to get ready for racing here again in Germany, coming around the penultimate corner of this track. And now the safety car heads into the pits. Nervo is going to get away well on the restart. He's actually not got away that well, and Mthorn's in a good position to try and challenge into turn 1, and not quite close enough on this occasion. Nervo streams through turn 1, followed by Mthorn, then Aresi, then Theo, Bimu in 5th, Big C in 6th, RBOS in 7th, then Alex and Clarkey and Kian running out the top 10.
Yeah, it's going to get very interesting into the hairpin further behind, because obviously people get massive slipstream effects, but on board with Aresi and doesn't seem to be gaining enough time on M4 to make a move into the hairpin. No, he'll have to stay behind, and we'll just see who's got the pace at this safety car restart, because gaps will slowly start to appear when we see who has got the ultimate pace on the last 5 laps of this race, as we now head into this Mercedes grandstand corner, and Nervo appears to have already got a pretty big advantage at this restart.
Yeah, so he's already scampering off up into the road, and Mthorn is now falling into the clutches of Aresi in 3rd place, and Nervo's already pulled out a 2nd on the Haas car, so he's not going to get DRS when it is enabled around about lap 31, because obviously it's 2 laps after a safety car restart as well as the start of the race. So now coming through the last corner, what's the gap as they come over the line? It is now 1.4 seconds, so he's not going to get any slipstream effect kind of either, but Aresi definitely will, and he's now going to try and get close enough into the braking zone of turn 2. It takes quite a shallow line into the corner, which is going to compromise his exit through turns 3 and 4. Now down onto the back straight. He's in the slipstream now of the Haas, but not quite close enough to make a move, nowhere near close enough for a move, but now Alex is up the inside of Beamu, who's for some reason on the soft tyre, and surprisingly not on the super soft. So now Alex is up the inside. Oh my goodness me! And that's going to take these two completely out of the race. And now Beamu is having to wait for all the cars to go past and has gone right to the back of the field, the pole sitter. And now I think Alex is waiting up for him, or is he still recovering? It's hard to tell at the moment, but that looked like Alex swiped across him on a Beamu's screen, but from Beamu's it might be, from Alex's it might have been a completely different story, such as the case of this game. And now that's helped the likes of GR Demon and Nummer come up into the points, as we can see on that very helpful graphic on the left hand side. Bixie's pitted, which we can see on that graphic as well for some reason. So unfortunately Beamy has retired from the race, but I wonder why Bixie's pitted, unless he's got a drive through for something that we don't yet know of. So now coming through the turn 4 corner, I think DRS is enabled now, but Aresi nowhere near close enough to make any kind of impact on the Haas in front of him. Now down into the hairpin, I think. Aresi up the inside, not quite. Emthorn taking a very wide line into the corner, and I think it's just starting to spit with rain again.
Yeah, we didn't actually. Well, you may have heard it. BMU's engineer, when he crashed, said that light rain was not too far away. So this race could have one final twist if the rain starts falling down heavy enough. As we saw earlier on in this race, it was like a lap to get from dry conditions to complete into conditions. So if that happens once again, we could have a thrilling climax to this race. And Dean is up the inside of Kian and had to back out of that one. Very respectful driving from both of them though, as I think Kian is on the medium compound tyre compared to the Force India drivers who's on the super soft. So he'll have a lot more grip at this stage as we head through the final corner of this race onto lap 32. So there's 3 laps remaining for these guys, and it's all becoming a bit more sort of serious now, because they need to make sure that they are making these positions stick, as they've both got DRS into turn 2. But Demon's looking up the inside once again. They're going to go side by side through turn 3. Wonder, presumably the Force India driver is going to get better traction, but no, the Renault driver manages to hang on. But now towards the hairpin, the Force India will have that DRS and will surely get up into P8.
Yeah, I don't think Kian pitted under the safety car. That's why he's still on the mediums at the moment, but not doing too bad of a job considering he is in 9th place. But he has now lost that position to this Force India of GR Demon, and is now going to quickly come under threat from the other Force India of Dan the Snake down into turn 8. And that is the Sauber in 11th place. So Sauber could be still looking for a points paying position if something else happens in front, but obviously it can still happen. There's still 2 laps to go at the end of this one, and now I think we're going to go back further up the field on board with Noah Tank as he goes over the line to start the penultimate lap of the race. And Emthorn is definitely under threat from Aresi at the moment, who is miles quicker than the Haas at this stage in the race as the super softs begin to wear down. And it's going to come down to whoever's got the best tyre management in this phase of the race, with 2 laps to go, including this one. So Aresi in a great position to try and overtake Emthorn down into the hairpin. Emthorn trying to break the slipstream of the Ferrari behind him, but now he's going to surely have to go defensive into the hairpin. He doesn't. He chooses to let the Ferrari up the inside. So now he's going to get the cut back on the exit of the corner, and is not quite close enough to make any use of it, and that slips back into the slipstream of the Ferrari, and is earlier on the brakes into turn 8.
Yeah, so that is the Ferrari driver up into P2, and I think his hopes of trying to take that win from Nero Tank are surely gone now, because the Renault driver is quite far up the road, but obviously we do still have to account for penalties as we head into this final sector now. And the rain appears to be starting to fall very, very lightly, so I don't think it's going to affect the drivers in terms of making a pit stop, but it could make the conditions very interesting on the final lap.
Yeah, Theo, don't forget as well, in 4th place, a tremendous drive from the guy who qualified in 14th, so he's up 10 places from his starting grid spot as we now go on to the final lap of the race from the race leader's point of view. And now we're back in the second half of the top 10 And Kian still maintaining that 9th place, so doing a good job considering he's on the mediums. And now is getting reasonably close to the back of the Force India. It looks like he's pulled away slightly from Dan in 10th place, so it's a double points finish at the moment, the way it stands for the two Force Indias, which will be a good job for the both of them considering their recent difficulties, especially on GR Demon's side. So now down into the hairpin. Can Demon make any inroads on Nummer? No, he has to stick in behind for now, but Nummer's gone deep into the hairpin actually, and this is going to allow GR Demon to get right in close behind him, but he can't. Is he going to have a look up the inside into turn it? I think he's too far back for a lunge down into the left-hander here, and a great shot of the Mercedes-Benz grandstand on board with Kian then. So now hopefully we get to see the race leader soon. Here he is now coming into the penultimate corner, and once again he has commanded the race, coming through the last corner now, and he's going to come through to take the win across the line. And Aresi is going to come through. Here we are on board with him, and he's actually taken the victory. So Nervo turns out had penalties, and once again it's cost him another victory. Emthorn comes over the line in 4th place. He'll be promoted to 4th due to Clarkey having penalties as well. Theo actually gets a podium, and Big C comes across the line. He gets a point as well, and I think there's a lot of changes over the line there. It's hard to tell who come where. So Aresi's won the race. Nervo is 2nd. Theo has got a podium in 3rd place, as the rest of the grid now NBA Rubin in 13th. Thorn and Clarkey dropped position each. Dan has somehow got up to 6th in all of that. So now this is the hairpin on the last lap. Jonas almost collects the back of Dan once again in this race at the hairpin, and drops it on the exit. So clearly he wasn't able to adapt just close enough towards the end of the race, and loses out on his chance of points, sadly for him. And Alex around the outside then, down in 12th place. It's been a very poor race from him, and then loses the back end again at turn 8, and that is his chance of points well and truly gone. And now on board with Mayhem Madness, crawling around the last part of the lap, and he's struggling himself, loses the back end through the chicane, goes into the gravel trap, and so does the Sauber behind him of NBA Rubin, and that's where he loses out to Big C. And I wonder if that actually costs him a point, because Big C came
it does. Big C had an incredible final lap, went from 15th to 11th over the finish line and managed to scrape a point. So even with a drive-through, he managed to take 1 point home for the Williams team, as you can just see how much they're struggling. This is because of the rain that was coming down. It didn't affect the top drivers, but these drivers further behind suffered, and it may not look that heavy, but it really cost you a lot of grip. So as you can see, Big C was able to snatch a point in all of that. And Shane, take us through the race results from Germany.
It's Aresi up at the top, then in that first position, his 2nd win of the season. Nervo once again with penalties, costing himself another victory, so that will come back to bite him towards the end of the season, no doubt. He's lost 7 points to his rivals there in the championship. Theo collects a brilliant podium, only 6/10 off 2nd place there, so it's a shame he couldn't get 2nd place, but nonetheless it's a superb result for the Manor driver. Emthorn in 4th place then, followed by Clarkey, and Dan snatching up 6th place, also one of 2 drivers not to get a penalty during that race, and Kian in 7th place, followed by RBS, GR Demon and Big C obviously nabbing out the final point by a couple of hundreds ahead of his teammates. Then it's Mayhem Madness in 12th, followed by NBA Rubin with a large amount of pit stops, followed by Alex, who had pretty much a race to forget here in Germany. Then it's Jonas, and then the first of the DNFers in BMU, followed by Big Shot, Jake, Biko and Ali K. And for the Drivers' Championship then, Nervo opens the gap to 35 points down to Alex in 2nd place. Aresi gets ahead of Emthorn with that victory for the Ferrari, and a penalty for Emthorn, demoting him down to 4th place in the race. Kian maintaining 5th, followed by Big Shot and Ali K and RBOS. Clarkey moves up into the top 10 in 9th, whilst Dan maintains that 10th place, and Disimplay sadly dropping out of the top 10 is now down to 11th. Then it's Theo in 12th place, followed by Jonas, Big C, GR Demon, Mayhem Madness, B Colt, NBA Rubin, B Mute in 19th, Numa in 20th, and Jake in 21st.
Renault's gap at the Constructors' Championship has been cut today, but only by 1 point, so they maintain a commanding lead ahead of Ferrari, with Haas moving up into P3 with Red Bull dropping a position as they scored no points today. McLaren stay 5th ahead of Force India, Mercedes only 11 points behind them. Manor are 8th with Sauber and Williams very close together in 9th and 10th, with Toro Rosso down in 11th.
So those are the standings. Now we're going to head over to the interviews once again, and we have got Big C with us as well as GR Demon. The first guy we are going to be speaking to will be Big C, who managed to score his first points finish after a run of 3 DNFs. How does it feel to be back in the points once again?
Yeah, obviously it's been quite difficult recently. I've had a few DNFs in Hungary. I hit the back of alley due to some lag, but yeah, bittersweet in the end because I was well up there before I got a drive through under the safety car, so I was going too quick. I didn't really follow the delta, so I probably could have finished around 5th or 6th without the penalty. But yeah, obviously after I was last before the last safety car, so yeah, I'll take a point considering the recent form.
Looked like there were some tricky strategy calls that were needed to be made this race with the rain and the late safety car. How do you think you handled those?
Yeah, I was really happy with my decisions actually. I was like 16th, 15th before pitting for the Inters. I was the only driver to pit for the Inters. Then I came out ahead of BMU and Thorn, so I was up to like 4th or 5th at that time. My pace on the Inters was actually really bad, and Thorn and BMU quickly passed. But once we got back on the dries, my pace was pretty solid, and I was 5th or 6th before the second safety car again. And obviously, as I mentioned before, the penalty cost me a lot of points in the end.
You're in a close fight with Sauber in the Constructors, with Manor and Mercedes not too far ahead either. Is the goal to finish 7th now this season?
It's difficult to say. Certainly not finishing last is the aim. So beating Sauber is what we want to achieve. I think Norma's only had 1 points finish this season, my teammate. So I think getting both cars into the top 10 is pretty important, because keeping it clean on lap 1, making sure we're not getting any penalties or any silly incidents with drivers is what we need to do for the second half of the season.
All right. So next up with us we have GR Demon, who managed to score his first points as well since his podium in China. How does it feel to get those points after that pointless streak?
Well, it feels incredibly overdue, and I'm very happy to have finally ended it. And yeah, I can't believe it's taken this long really. Had a lot of bad luck on the way and missed opportunities.
A couple of corner cutting penalties demoted you from finishing in 6th, and which would have been ahead of your teammate as well. So how difficult was it to avoid picking up warnings when fighting so close with the pack in those tricky conditions?
Well, to be fair, I think I could have done a lot more to avoid some of them penalties, but it is what it is. And yeah, the conditions definitely made it harder. With turn 1 especially, it was very easy to run wide there. But yeah, paid the price for it. I definitely had the potential to finish higher, especially without the safety car. But I've only got myself to blame really, so onwards and upwards.
Force India are now starting to pull away from Mercedes for 6th in the Constructors. With McLaren well up the road in 5th place, is the goal just to solidify your position from the chasing pack?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think me and Dan expected to have as many points as... Well, Dan definitely I don't think expected to have this many points. I would have expected to have more, but to be this high up I think was a bit unexpected, so if we can maintain it that'll be great.
So that is it from the interviewees as well as me and Dan. So we'll see you next time out in Belgium for the glorious Spa track. From me and Dan, we'll both see you there. Goodbye.